What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and I really don't like the personal political opinions of Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling. She is the definition of a slacktivist, constantly demanding everyone else make changes while living in a literal mansion, sleeping on a pile of money. Yet Twitter continues to make me have to defend this woman because of a small section of a particular community, and that is, in this particular case, trans activists. Now, I myself have interacted with this small group of people on Twitter, and I've found them to be exceedingly, like, it's not even close, by far and away the most toxic group of people I've ever dealt with. It's the number one reason I will avoid topics in, a lot of times if I'm on the fence about a particular topic and that topic contains anything trans related, I just don't cover it because the risk is just too high of misspeaking or, of drawing the ire of this community, which sets out to ruin people's lives. I don't think optically, from a marketing perspective, they do the trans community any good whatsoever. And I'll show you exactly why. Now, this doesn't mean I agree with some of the things that J.K. Rowling has said, but a lot of this comes from J.K. Rowling's kind of biological take on the trans community, saying that, gender, using a science-based approach to gender. I've always maintained my position is live and let live, as long as your own life's decisions aren't infringing on anyone else's rights. Or your biological orientation or all these things, as long as it's not infringing on someone else's rights, I literally have no opinion on it. I just, when you make other people have to, live by your standards rather than the standards that are set, by society or by the Constitution, well, that's a little different. But with J.K. Rowling, she's now responding, blasting people who have threatened her life and goes after trans activists. J.K. Rowling went after a Twitter user on Monday after she was sent a threat of something that, goes boom amid a series of attacks over her previous statements about trans women. The Harry Potter author shared a screenshot of the offending tweet, which was directed at her on Sunday as she slammed the efforts of some trans activists to get her quote-unquote canceled. First of all, J.K. Rowling is never going to get canceled. I don't know why people continue to think that they will be able to do this, but it's just not happening. There must be a large contingent of Zoomer fans of Harry Potter because it's like these books haven't been out in 20 years. Why is J.K. Rowling even relevant? Yet every time she opens her mouth, Twitter loses their minds. The Harry Potter shared a screenshot of the offending tweet, responding to the post, which read, "I wish you a very nice thing that goes boom in the mailbox," Rowling wrote. "To be fair, you can't get a woman sacked, arrested, or dropped by her publisher, and canceling her only made her book sales go up. There's really only one place to go." I mean, that's a pretty spicy tweet against, kind of cancel culture and the woke mob. Now, this is such a weird thing for me because, I will say, in all of my experiences interacting with members of the trans community, they've always been relatively positive. I have several friends on Twitter who are trans, and everything's always been good. And they've always said that the people that are these crusaders, they don't represent them. I think they do far more harm than good. When you're doing stuff like this. Another Twitter user asked if the threat was a reaction to Rowling's statements about men being allowed to use women's restrooms and changing rooms by simply saying they identify as a woman. The writer said yes, but now hundreds of trans activists have threatened to do terrible things to me that I can't even read on YouTube. And I realized this movement poses no risk to women whatsoever. On Sunday, Rowling hit back another Twitter users who accused the star of ignoring a tweet directed at kids in her post. Defending herself, "I'll give you a moment to think hard about leaving that up. I report every bit of spicy content, so-called trans allies tweet into Twitter threads where children are sending me artwork of the Ichabog, I don't respond and retweet it because I don't want more kids to see it. But now hundreds of trans activists have gone on to do threaten terrible things. I'm not sure how these tactics, using spicy images as a weapon against a woman you dislike, not caring that children get caught in the crossfire, and that misrepresenting what really happened is supposed to help trans people, she continued. Nor do I see how what you've done here helps correct the impression that the end game for you and your ilk is to intimidate women out of speaking up for our own rights, no matter how low you have to go to do it. And that's what I'm talking about. Maybe outside of the Nicki Minaj fans, the Barbs, the amount of hate and vitriol and just appalling stuff that I see from this community is bananas. And I don't have to dig. I mean, there's just thousands of posts, and I'll show you some of them. I'm not making this up. Hashtag, obviously, not all trans people. And also, I bet you a lot of these trans allies aren't even trans. They're just making it worse for them. She wrote, when you throw the door open of bathrooms and changing rooms to any man who believes or feels he's a woman, and as I've said, gender confirmation certificates may now be granted without the need for surgery or hormones, then you open the door to all men who wish to come inside. That is the simple truth. She's correct. This is an argument too here in the United States that we had for a long time. And I thought, boy, why don't you just, have all single stall bathrooms? I've seen a couple of businesses have this. Like, you just have 3 single stall bathrooms and that's it. Now, when you're a high traffic place, it's difficult. You can't probably have enough of them available. But I mean, there are practical ways to work around this. And she's also saying, I'm assuming this gender confirmation certificate means that, like, you've seen a doctor and that you actually, you've done some work and you're not just anybody off the street saying, oh, I identify for the day. Earlier in June, Rowling took umbrage at an article that referred to people who menstruate, responding to a tweet, I'm sure there used to be a word for these people. Someone help me out. Wimpund? Wumud? The Star of Sense expressed her stance. Some trans activists have branded Rowling a TERF, an acronym for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. Amid the criticism, Rowling tweeted, if this isn't real, then there is no same orientation attraction. If it isn't real, then the lived reality of a woman globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of men and women removes the ability of many meaningfully discuss their lives. This isn't hate speech. This is the truth. Essentially, Rowling has been very progressive and has courted this type of audience, and now it's kind of blowing up in her face. Pushing, she's basically drawn the line at, erasing women, saying that basically anyone can be a woman. That's her position. I don't think a few trans people identifying as female is going to affect the overall word female, but I also respect her position and, where she's coming from. And on top of that, by the way, thanks to Data Racer, we see all sorts of stuff. I wish you a very nice thing in the mailbox. Yes, so you see this, and you see, obviously, this person then privated their account. Let's see, cyber Marxist. Private Twitter is whatever, no TWs, I don't know what that is. Gender fluid, trigender, cyber Marxist. I think that you would be forgiven for... I wonder how many of these people that have these kind of multiple classifications, how many of them are over 30 years old? That's a question I wonder if there's a number that exists out there. Going to be opening a charity to send Rowling something that goes boom. I wish a specific woman, I will not mention their name, a very painful passing. I mean, what? I don't think I want to end J.K. Rowling. I'm not kidding. We need to put this woman down like a rabid dog. This is insane. She's asking for it at this point. Who talks like this? I can imagine just kids, I would hope. There's all sorts of stuff. And he posted another, here's another thing. Tons and tons and tons just having her threats on her life. I've said this before and I'll say it again. By the way, if you haven't yet, please do subscribe to the channel. Red subscribe button down below. This kind of rhetoric, this kind of reaction does not change minds. It only galvanizes them. These little montages of allies saying terrible things, you know what it really does? Is it radicalizes people the other way, right? And it hurts the trans community's brand. You know, I think that the idea that, you know, anyone who doesn't completely submit to whatever today's narrative is, if you're going to run them out and you're going to do this stuff, you're going to not have any allies. Here's Ben O'Keefe, of certified blue checkmark. This woman is absolute scum. Shut the F up. You don't know or love any trans people. Okay, what? These are all blue check marks. Delete yourself from a blue check mark. Calling her a troglodyte, you know, all this stuff. Okay, you could say, okay, boomer. That's, you know, whatever. But I mean, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of these posts, which will force me now to defend J.K. Rowling. These people need to be, you know, I would say the LGBTQ movement, if they care about their brand, if they really care about acceptance, then they need to call out their own, and they need to, you know, excise these people from their community, excommunicate them, say we don't want this kind of help. Otherwise, I'll wonder if you just are really just a terrible person looking for a reason to be terrible. That's how it looks. If you don't excise these people, excommunicate, I mean, that like making a statement and saying like, hey, they don't speak for us, then it's going to look like you're condoning it. Or, you know, and what I think really is going on with these people, they're not really trans activists. They just figured out that that's a get out of jail free card to be just awful to people, which doesn't do anyone any good either. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.